Taiwo thought losing his adoptive mother was the hardest moment of his life, until his siblings tried to erase him from her legacy. In fighting for his rightful place, he uncovers a buried truth about why he was adopted in the first place. A truth that doesn't just question his family bond, but shatters everything he believed about love, loyalty, and blood itself. What he discovers is a betrayal deeper than greed, one that could destroy the entire family. And when the final secret is revealed, nothing will ever be the same again. Taiwo had never felt like he belonged. Growing up in Abuja with Madame Tola as his adoptive mother, he was grateful for her care, but always sensed a gap. His siblings, Tosin and Bizi, tolerated him at best, treating him as an outsider in their polished Garki duplex. When Madame Tola died suddenly, grief filled the house, but underneath the mourning lay tension. Tension Taiwo could feel in the way Tosin's eyes avoided his, in the sharp silence of Bizi's footsteps. At the will reading, their lawyer spread the documents on the mahogany table. Madame Tola had divided the estate into 3 parts, one for each child, including Taiwo. Tosin slammed his fist on the table. This is a joke. Taiwo is not her real son. He gets nothing. Bizi's lips curled in agreement. The lawyer cleared his throat, reminding them that the will was binding, but the atmosphere turned poisonous. Taiwo sat frozen, the words stabbing him harder than the inheritance itself. That night, he stared at Abuja's skyline through his small apartment window. He could walk away, take whatever scraps they offered, and disappear. But something in his chest hardened. He had been silenced long enough. He whispered to himself, "No, I won't be erased." Days later, whispers began reaching him. Friends hinted at strange gaps in his past. One evening, while digging through Mama Tola's old cabinet, he found a sealed envelope. Inside was a faded hospital receipt, dated around his birth. His heart raced. She had never told him details about his adoption. Why hide something so basic? The truth was cracking open, and he couldn't ignore it. The more he pressed, the more hostile his siblings became. Tosin confronted him in the driveway, his voice sharp with fury. "Stop digging, Taiwo. Accept your place, or you'll regret it." Bizi watched silently from the balcony, her eyes cold. Taiwo walked away, but the warning echoed in his chest. Where were they hiding? One evening, he received a text from an unknown number. "Meet me at Jobby Lake Park. 6 p.m. Come alone." Against his better judgment, he went. The lake shimmered under the Abuja sunset. A woman in sunglasses approached. Her name was Ifeoma, and her voice trembled. "I knew your real mother. Madame Tola adopted you to protect you, from your own blood." Before Taiwo could press her, she handed him a folded paper and vanished into the crowd. Taiwo unfolded the document, a birth certificate, his name written clearly. Under father, one name chilled his blood, Chief Johnson Oladipo, Tosin and Bizi's father. That night, Taiwo's world cracked. He wasn't just adopted. He was blood, their brother. The rejection, the hostility, it wasn't about him being an outsider. It was about him being too much of an insider. If recognized, he had as much right to everything as they did. But why had Mama Tola lied? Why raise him as an orphan if he belonged by blood? His phone buzzed again. A frantic whisper, "They know you met me. Be careful. Your siblings won't stop. They'll erase you if they have to." The line went dead. Taiwo sat in silence, the city's hum outside his window. He finally understood this wasn't about inheritance. It was survival. The siblings moved quickly. Bizi ambushed him in a cafe, her voice calm but sharp. "Walk away, Taiwo. For your own good." He stared at her, seeing not a sister but a rival fighting for control. His silence only deepened her glare. Tosin wasn't so subtle. One night, Taiwo's car brakes failed on the expressway. He barely survived, his hands shaking as he climbed out of the wreckage. The message was clear: leave or be left dead. Haunted but unbroken, Taiwo searched deeper. With Ifeoma's help, he unearthed the final truth. Johnson had fathered him with another woman, a scandal that could ruin his name. Madame Tola adopted Taiwo not out of charity, but to bury the secret while shielding him from disgrace. Tosin and Beezy had always known, and they hated him for being proof of their father's betrayal. In a stormy confrontation at the family house, Taiwo laid the certificate on the table. "I am your brother," he said, his voice steady, "whether you accept it or not." Tosin lunged at him, but Beezy pulled him back. Her eyes flickered between rage and fear. They couldn't erase the truth anymore. Taiwo left the house that night with nothing but the birth certificate in his pocket. No fortune, no acceptance, just the raw knowledge of who he was. Standing by Jobby Lake again, he whispered into the night air, "Blood is not enough. Love makes family, and if I have to stand alone, I will." The city lights shimmered on the water, reflecting a man who had lost everything, but also gained the one thing that mattered: himself. Taiwo thought knowing the truth would bring peace, but instead Abuja became colder. Friends who once smiled now avoided him. Rumors spread, whispers that he was an illegitimate son trying to steal wealth. Tosin had influence, and he used it to smear Taiwo's name. One morning, Taiwo's landlord banged on his door. "Mr. Taiwo, pack your things. They say you're a fraud. I don't want trouble in my house." His belongings ended up on the street, his neighbors watching in silence. For the first time, Taiwo understood how powerful the siblings' reach was. Still, he folded the birth certificate neatly in his pocket. It was his only weapon. Tosin and Lola weren't satisfied with ruining his reputation. They needed him silenced permanently. Tosin met with shadowy figures at a bar and was two, men who spoke in low tones over bottles of Hennessy. "Handle him," Tosin whispered. The men nodded. That night, as Taiwo walked near Area 1, a black SUV slowed beside him. Two men jumped out, their fists heavy, their voices harsh. "Leave Abuja, or next time you won't stand up." Taiwo staggered home, bloodied but alive. Instead of fear, anger burned in him. He realized if he didn't fight back, he'd be buried without a trace. When everything seemed lost, Ifeoma returned. She found Taiwo limping near Utako Market and helped him inside a Kiki Napep. In her small flat, she cleaned his wounds, her voice steady. "You're stronger than you think, and you're not alone." She revealed something shocking. Her late father had been a lawyer for Chief Johnson. Among his old files, she had seen documents proving Taiwo's place in the family. If they could access those records, it would crush Tosin's lies. Taiwo's eyes lit with a fragile hope for the first time. Maybe, just maybe, he could reclaim not just his name, but his dignity. The documents were hidden in an old law office downtown, long abandoned, but still holding boxes of dusty files. One humid evening, Taiwo and Ifeoma slipped through the cracked door. The air smelled of mold and paper. Flashlights danced across shelves until Ifeoma froze. "Here." She pulled out a file marked confidential. Yo inside were letters, Johnson's signature, payment to Madame Tola for Taiwo's upkeep. Even a secret trust fund never claimed. Taiwo's hands trembled as he held the papers. Proof. Real proof. But before they could leave, headlights swept across the window. A car door slammed. Heavy footsteps approached. Tosin had found them. Tosin stormed in, his voice like thunder. "You think you can steal my life? You'll leave here in a coffin." A fight broke out. Taiwo, though weaker, fought with desperate strength, the truth burning inside him. Ifeoma screamed, clutching the files. In the chaos, a lantern toppled, flames licking at old papers. The office caught fire, smoke filling the room. Taiwo grabbed Ifeoma's hand, dragging her toward the exit, but Tosin blocked the door. For a moment, it seemed they would all burn. Then Beezy's voice cut through the smoke. "Enough, Tosin." She appeared at the doorway, her face pale. She had followed him, and for the first time, her eyes were not cold but conflicted. The flames roared higher. Choices had to be made. Smoke clawed at Taiwo's throat, hot and oily, turning each breath into a fight. Files curled into ash around his shoes as flames licked up the shelving. Tosin's silhouette filled the doorway, broad-shouldered and unyielding, eyes bright with a rage that was almost relief. "It ends here," he said, voice steady in the roar. Ifeoma coughed hard, clutching the folder to her chest, fingers blackened with soot. Then Beezy appeared behind Tosin, a shock of sleek hair and trembling resolve. "Move," she said, trying to push past him. Taiwo saw something flicker in her, fear, guilt, and something like desperation. "Tosin, if you do this, we're finished. Not just the money, the name." Sirens wailed faint and far, the city's heartbeat closing in. Tosin hesitated for a blink, just long enough for Taiwo to shoulder into him. The impact staggered Tosin sideways. Beezy seized the moment, grabbing Taiwo's wrist and yanking him through a gap in the smoke toward a side stairwell. Ifeoma stumbled after them, coughing, eyes streaming. Behind them, Tosin roared and crashed through a metal trolley. On the landing, Beezy shoved a small brass key into Taiwo's palm. "UTB Bank. Safe deposit. My father kept duplicates. Go." Taiwo stared at her. "Why help me?" She swallowed, smoke painting her tears. "Because he was our father. Yours, too. And because I'm tired of lying. Escape. A path." He looked at Beezy, breath ragged. "Come with us." She shook her head, backing away. "I'll slow you down. And if I vanish, he'll know." In the wash of red-blue lights, she melted into the shadows around the corner, leaving the key warm in Taiwo's palm and the city sirens swallowing their shared secret. Morning broke thin and exhausted over Abuja. Taiwo woke on a vinyl bench in a clinic off Amadabello Way, with his knuckles bandaged and smoke still in his hair. Ifeoma sat beside him, a paper cup of water in both hands like a prayer. "We can't wait," she said softly. "Before Tosin locks everything down." Taiwo nodded, the memory of Beezy's trembling face cutting through the fog. By noon, they were at UTB Bank in Maitama. Marble floors, air like a refrigerator. The manager inspected the brass key, then led them into the vault, steel humming with money and secrets. Box 214 opened with a sigh. Inside, a flat envelope, a flash drive, and a notarized letter bearing Chief Johnson's crest. Taiwo's hands shook as he unfolded the letter. Chief Johnson's handwriting marched across the page. "Financial provisions for my first son, Taiwo. Monthly transfers funneled through Madame Tola to protect the boy, and a clause acknowledging Taiwo as heir in dignity, if not in public." The flash drive held scans, bank remittances, photographs, a brief video clip of Chief Johnson in an office, saying a date, a name, and a sentence that froze Taiwo's blood. "If anything happens to Tola or the boy, investigate Tosin's impatience." And Ifeoma traded a look, no victory in it, just gravity. Outside, the sun hit hard, bouncing off bonnet and glass as traffic crawled. Taiwo's phone buzzed, a message from a private number, only a location pin, and the words "we need to talk." They met in a quiet cafe and was two. No makeup, no armor, just Beezy, smaller than her name. She didn't sit. "Mother knew," she said. She forgave father, but never forgot. Tosin, he worshipped her, and he decided to protect her version of the family at any cost. She glanced at the envelope. "I didn't touch Tola. I swear." "Oh, the brake job?" He called someone. "I beg him not to." Her voice cracked. "I'm done, Taiwo. Use what you have. Just don't make me your collateral damage." The city felt like glass underfoot, shiny, brittle, ready to slice, when Taiwo stepped into the lawyer's office with the envelope and the drive. The lawyer's glasses caught the light as he watched Johnson's video twice, then a third time, the room shrinking around the word impatience. In the end, Taiwo discovered that sometimes the deepest cuts don't come from strangers, but from the very people we call family. Blood alone doesn't guarantee love, loyalty, or truth. Sometimes it only hides betrayal. But here's the real question. When family turns against you, do you fight to belong? Or do you walk away and build your own? If this story moved you, Don't just stop here, like, share and subscribe, because more stories that dig into the heart of life and choices are coming your way.